the song I chose is called Danny Boy, and it's immensely popular. Just about everybody has heard of it or could sing it, if not memorize it. And in our Chinese, we had several versions. Actually, in the original English lyrics, there were more than one. But Danny Boy, it became the most popular one. So everybody knows what Danny Boy is. But before that, the first song with this tune, which is called Londonderry Air. Air 就是一个歌的意思哈，或者民歌，就是空气的这个字 AIR 哈。那这个歌呢，the tune is called the Londonderry Air. Londonderry 是这个 Northern Ireland 的一个place name. When I was in Taiwan, I could sing one or two versions of this tune with Chinese lyrics. Now I couldn't remember what. Oh, one of them was 母亲呀，我慈爱的母亲呀. So it's about mother, but it has nothing to do with the English lyrics. I don't remember if there are others, but in English, I first learned the song with a different lyrics, and that Danny Boy was the second one I learned. I used to be able to memorize the first one. It's about a boy and a girl, and the boy says he saw this girl so beautiful and sitting under the apple tree with the sunshine filtered through the leaves and so on and so forth. But now I don't remember the entire lyrics. If I were underneath, passing by an apple when the apple trees were blooming, and I would grab an apple and pluck an apple and eat the apple, and so on and so forth. It's about the boy's impression of this girl. However, once I learned Danny Boy and came to this country, everybody knew this song is Danny Boy, so I forgot about the previous one I used to know. But it's very beautiful. The tune itself is a beautiful tune. And we will talk about Danny Boy, which actually was not written to match this melody. The person who wrote Danny Boy originally had a melody to go with that, but later on, his sister-in-law told him that I think that your song would go much better with the Londonderry Air. So eventually they changed it. So Danny Boy now becomes a very, very famous song worldwide. And it is about how a boy was going away and someone who's left behind. Most people think that someone was one of his parents, because most people do not think it's a girl was singing that song. So let's say it's a parent, and maybe it's a mother, okay? So the mother was left behind, and the mother thought she would never see the boy back again. She didn't really say why the boy was going away, but she thought she would eventually die and never able to see this boy. So it's a very sad song. And the tune is just so beautiful. It goes up and down and just moves you in so many ways. And now with the beautiful lyrics, then it became so famous. So everybody knew that was an Irish song, but it was not an Irish song, okay? And I tried to match it with the Li Bai's poem called the Chang'an Xing. It is also about, this is about a girl who stayed behind. She was saying that her husband went away year after year, and she was just waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping that someday her husband would return. So this longing is the same thing. That's why I chose to match this song with Li Bai's 长干行. And in the process of talking about these two subjects, I would talk about Mario Lanza, who sang this song that we're going to listen to. And we'll talk about this song, and we'll talk about Ireland and the Li Bai and the Tang Shi. Okay, these are the main topics of today. First of all, we would talk about the vocabulary from last week, okay? Even though it looks like we have just about the same number of words on this list, it is much, much easier and simpler than last week. Last week, we took just like an hour and 20 minutes to finish this one slide. But today we're going to just breeze through all these words. The first two words, the first one is cliffhanger. That's the only one I did not put a translation on it because I don't know how to say it. If I say something, you would certainly understand it is 预知后事如何，且听下回分解. This is what cliffhanger means. It is that when someone is telling a story, when the story comes to the most dangerous or very, how do you say? That's why it's so hard to translate into Chinese in 2-3 words. It is like a person was hanging on the cliff. Any moment he might die, and you don't know what's going to happen to this.
吊胃口。
是一种吊胃口的意思，可是还没有那么精彩就是了。Cliffhanger， 老实说呢，when people think about the human literature, the history of human literature, they would first think about 1001 Night. That's why we learn this word cliffhanger, because this beautiful girl, young girl who wanted the king to stop killing new wives day after day. So she invented this way, which is called a cliffhanger. But at that time, nobody knows that it's called a cliffhanger. She would tell the king a story, and it goes into very exciting point when everything, when the king was really intrigued. Let me put the intrigue here. Intrigue.
有那个悬崖的
有悬疑，对，有悬崖，intrigue 呢，就是一种吸引人的，有一个很神秘的地方，可是你很难知道它到底是什么哈。我是说 ，if I am intrigued by the story, then 我就被这个故事的紧张惊险的这些情节所迷住了，或者说变成很紧张的样子哈。还有一个 intrigue 可以用的就是court intrigue， 就是说比方说你看琼瑶的什么清朝的什么about the dynastic the concubines are trying to grab power or to seduce the king or whatever. There would be all kinds of human maneuvering. You know what is maneuver? Maneuver, huh? What happened? Maneuver. 所谓 maneuver 呢，就是说在那里 manipulate， 用人的那些比较不是正规的事情哈，你用一些神秘的做法，或者是说骗人的做法来操纵别人，这个叫做 maneuver 哈。那这个所谓 court intrigue 呢，就是说在宫廷里面呢，用各种的 Oh, guess what happened? I'm looking at my hummingbird. I have a big window here, and every day, especially when the sun shines on the red flowers, the hummingbird would come here. But I was never able to catch a picture of this hummingbird. Every time I go out, and I go out and the bird is gone. Okay, so I'm sorry about this. We're talking about cliffhanger, which is a very intriguing thing. And when we talk about court intrigue, there will be people who try to maneuver their situation or their position or to tell a lie in order for other people to listen to him or her and following his direction, but it's not a good way. So all these are related words. And we talk about cliffhanger. The first one was Scheherazade, who was a storyteller in the court of the Sultan. I would say it's a Sultan, not a king, huh? A sultan is a Sudan, ha, sultan. 我们说一个国家呢，就有 king 啊，或者有 noble person 啊 ，noble aristocrat， aristocrat， 这种是贵族哈。We have king or emperor, but in the Islamic world, they do not have kings or emperors, and they have a sultan. 他就是一个他们的国王，可是他们叫做 sultan 哈，我们叫做苏丹，中文叫苏丹哈，这些都是有关的字。However, for Western people, in addition to this story of 1001 night, 就是1001夜，或者我们叫做天方夜谭哈，西方的人呢，他们没有古时候他们没有这种 cliffhanger 哈，所以他们认为除了这个阿拉伯人的天方夜谭以外，他们还听说过的就是中国的所谓诸公调。在宋朝的时候有好多storyteller or story writers, they would write stories and they would match it with the melody so that they could sing. So there would be 一出戏哈，这一出戏呢常常叫做诸公调哈。I didn't write it down. Anyway, that's so when you in late 宋朝的时候的诸公调呢，他们就发明了可以用这个 cliffhanger 这件事来吸引他们的观众。所以在西方都还没有这种 cliffhanger 的观念的时候，他们就知道中国人有这种事了。当然不是当场了，他们可以说过了好几百年，中国的事情很少人知道是怎么回事，只是后来研究的时候 they realized that cliffhanger was individually invented by the Islamic people and the Chinese people way before they did. How did they come to realize that? That is when they started to have newspaper and a magazine, and they had serialized novels. All of a sudden, people started to read stories, which are novels, but they were serialized. Okay, here I have this word, serialized. Serialized 就是怎么说，就是连载的意思哈。这里边
章回小说算不算？
对，章回小说，可是以前比方说到了明朝，宋朝其实那个《三国演义》跟《水浒传》都还没有真的写出来，到了明朝才真的把它都写下来了。可是在宋朝元朝的时候就有这种一段一段的故事，而且是说书的人在那里讲。可是真正写成章回小说的话，要到了明朝才有。我们像说这个罗贯中啊什么， 这些都是明朝的小说家哈。可是这个刘知远诸公调呢是宋朝的故事，所以他那个时候就发明了这个 cliffhanger 这种事。可是要真的说到章回小说呢，是要到明朝才有的哈。可是再下来呢，就是下面这一行写的连载小说。连载小说，刚才我写那个 serialized 哈，就是说你有一个小说，你也许根本都还没写完，你就開始在報紙上面登哈。So it to be serialized in newspaper or magazine as a novel that were cut into sections. So every day or every month, depending on it's a monthly magazine or a daily newspaper, the people, the readers, they would open the book or the newspaper and read just one part of this story. And what happened, they don't know what happened afterwards. They have to wait until the next day or next month or next week in order for them to find out what happened. And in order for people, for all the readers to want to come back to read, that's increasing the subscription 哈，我们说这个 subscription 就是怎么说？你订阅哈，
订阅
subscription， OK， subscription 是从 subscribe 这个地方来的。你现在如果一天到晚 email receive a lot of email that you did not want to receive, you could click at the bottom which says unsubscribe. Then you unsubscribe it, then we hope it'll happen that they will stop sending you more email. But sometimes they don't listen, okay? That's where the word comes from. Subscription is when you subscribe to a newspaper or a magazine. And to unsubscribe, which is a new thing, only recently when we had internet do people unsubscribe something, because in the old days people don't subscribe to a newspaper unless they really want to and paid for it. But nowadays, because the internet is everywhere, they want to send to thousands people who never subscribe to their email or their novel or their story. So that's a very strange phenomena in our days and ages, that is that you have to unsubscribe, okay? So in the history of cliffhangers, the first one is probably 1001 Nights. It could be a little earlier than Song Chao. Actually, it's a 南宋的时候哈。It's probably 1100 or 1200 AD. But later, especially in Western Europe, people started to read novels in newspapers or magazines. Here we say Victorian serial publication. So-called Victorian means the age when Victoria, Queen Victoria, was the queen of British Empire. Someday we're going to talk about the history of England. In the beginning, there was England, then there was British Empire, and there it becomes UK, United Kingdom. So at different age, you don't say England. We Chinese just stuck with the word 英国. Until now, we still call it 英国, but they long ago, they threw away that word. They no longer call them England. England is just one part of our so-called 英国, because 英国 is right now, it's much bigger than England itself. It has Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And at another time, they had many colonies in the world. So when we talk about Victorian serial publication, that was during the time of Queen Victoria. And Queen Victoria became the queen of the British Empire plus many colonies. And she was the queen for about 60 years, just like the one before her, who was Queen Elizabeth I. She also had a very long reign. Let me write this down. Reign, R-E-I-G-N. That is 一个国王或者皇后她的统治的时代哈。Queen Victoria reigned for about 60 years, and Queen Elizabeth I also reigned for about 60 years, but much earlier than Queen Victoria. And after both of them, we had this current queen, Queen Elizabeth II. She also reigned for about 60 years, but she just recently, maybe last year, surpassed all those people before her. She became the longest reigning ruler of the United Kingdom. Okay, so in Victoria's time, which is just about 19th century, we know that probably Victoria reign, her reign stopped when she died, of course, in probably 1905. So the 60 years was almost entirely in the previous century, which is the 19th century. And during that time, people invented the newspaper, and it became very, very popular. And in addition to news and other information, they decided to print stories, novels. And Charles Dickens, here we have his name here, right after 连载小说, Charles Dickens was the very, very famous novelist, novelist 就是写小说的人, novelist. And he had his stories serialized, 变成报上的连载小说, or maybe 不是报纸, 而是一个杂志, his stories became so immensely popular that people in, say, in United States, let me see, United States was, yeah, it was already in existence. People in United States also read Charles Dickens' stories, but how do they read it? At that time, there was no internet, there was no airplane. So they have to go to the New York City dock and wait for the boat, the ship to come from England. When the ship arrived, all these people would rush to try to get a copy of Charles Dickens' new serialized novel. That's how popular he was. But if you look at many other countries, we also have serialized novels. For example, I was just reading, I just watched the movie Brothers Karamazov. It was serialized. It was written by, what's his name? Turgenev, a Russian novelist. His novels were serialized. So was Tolstoy, 托尔斯泰，他的小说也是在报纸上面连载的, And you know, for example, in France, you had the Dumas, 就是大仲马、小仲马。Dumas 大仲马的小说是 notoriously having lots of cliffhangers. 他的故事非常的紧张惊险. For example, The Count of Monte Cristo, 就是基督山恩仇记, That was certainly a serialized novel, and he became so famous and made so much money because his serialized novels were in the published in magazine or newspaper. And I was in the...
Hi, Joe. Can I ask you the question?
Sure.
Since you mentioned usually among Chinese, we refer England.
Yes.
So right now we should say United Kingdom.
Yes,
or Great
UK. When you mention this country, you should say UK. Yeah, United.
How about the Great Britain?
Great Britain. I have to study a little bit. Right now, they are no longer called Great Britain. There's exactly a period of time. For example, during Lord Nelson's time, it was Great Britain. From a certain king to a certain time, it was Great Britain. But during the reign of Victoria, Queen Victoria, Great Britain ceased to exist and it became UK when the empire had so many colonies. For example, India, it's so huge, much bigger than the UK itself. So they are no longer called the England or British Empire. It becomes just UK. But
Is it like the Commonwealth?
Commonwealth would be UK plus all those
Australia, Canada, all that.
All those, yes. For one thing, the United States was the split between United States and the Great Britain was very hostile. 他们是打仗分裂的. But with Australia and Canada, it was amicable. I would write this for you. Amicable. 就是说他们很友善的很和谐的来分裂所以叫做 amicable independence or split. So they have this Commonwealth 我们叫做英国国协 All these former colonies would join this Commonwealth and they would have meetings and they would have the Queen's picture on their stamps or on their have a little bit of 英国的米字旗 on their flag, so that they are former colonies that joined the Commonwealth. Even now you have Commonwealth. For example, Zimbabwe was part of the UK Commonwealth. Zimbabwe 我们叫做津巴布韦，是在南非的东南靠在南非共和国的北边，可是在莫桑比克那个附近的那个国家叫做 Zimbabwe， 它也是former Great Britain 的 colony， 所以它现在也属于他们的 Commonwealth。他们还every year they would have some kind of meeting to coordinate their things. So let me go back to where I was talking about, which is, I was talking about serialized novels. We had Charles Dickens in England. We had brothers Karamazov, Turgenev and Tolstoy. They were Russian novelists. And in France, you had Dumas. Dumas 就是如果是 Dumas Bear 就是大仲马 Dumas Fils 就是他的儿子叫做小仲马 They also write a lot of novel to be serialized. And I was going to say something that I was interrupted by. That is that I went to Japan and I went to Atami, like 叫做热海 and I walked in the morning to the beach side where Atami is, okay? And there's a statue of a young man in a uniform and a young girl who's on the floor. The young man pushed the girl to the ground, and that's part of the story of 金色夜叉. And behind or next to this statue, there's a plaque. A plaque 就是一个牌子 a plaque. OK, 他就说这个是某一个小说家，我现在也忘记了，他叫一个很有名的名字，可是我现在忘记了。Anyway, 他写的这个金色夜叉呢，就是 serialized 在他们的报纸或者是杂志上面出版的。 所以呢everywhere in the world, all the novelists, 事实上中国也有哈，中国一直到我们小时候，至少那个功夫novels are serialized in many newspapers. That's a very interesting thing because most other countries stopped having serialized novels, but we continue to have that because of Kung Fu novels, the famous Kung Fu novels. So Charles Dickens used a lot of cliffhangers in all his stories, partly or mainly because his novels were serialized. Otherwise, he did not have to put those cliffhangers in there. And here we have Thomas Hardy, who wrote many famous novels. He's also from England. 我们看过他的小说，比方说《戴斯姑娘》哈 ，Tess of Duberville, and Far from the Maddening Crowd. He's a prolific novelist, and in one of his novels called A Pair of Blue Eyes, he had this main character actually hanging on the cliff. That's where we got the word cliffhanger, because Thomas Hardy had a story with the main character hanging on the cliff in one of his novels. That was in 1872. So that is a lot later than our 水浒传 or something. Yeah. So 1872 is really, really late compared to Chinese cliffhangers. And of course, when we came to the last century, along came television. Television very early on started to have TV series, whether it's comedy or mystery or fighting stories or all kinds of dramas and so on and so forth. They became series. We say something became a series 就是变成有一个系列的故事是连在一起的哈。Now when it comes to TV with lots of series, they would all try to have cliffhangers so that they would grab more audience. This is a trick to grab audience, okay? So especially soap operas and the game shows, they would have lots of cliffhangers. We know that if you have a series on TV, you hope that you would not be canceled halfway. So when you write a story, you don't want the big boss to say, sorry, no more next week, because you have a cliffhanger there. The boss could not just cut you off. And sometimes this year, the season is over, you would put a cliffhanger at the end of this series for the year so that the boss would not cut your series off. It will not cancel your series. 这些都是他们的以前没有想到过的事哈。Cancel 就是把你这个 series 断掉了，下一年就没有这个 series 哈。那这里说的 soap opera 呢？这也是美国发明的一个字哈，它就是when you have TV stories，多半都是言情小说哈，families and love, romantic stories, day after day, the story goes on and on and on. And sometimes a person would go upstairs and did not come back 10 years later because the series goes on and on for 30 years or 40 years. It's not really very high class stories. It's all for housewives who after cleaning the house and doing laundry and so on and so forth, in the afternoon, they had some leisure time. They would sit down and watch a TV, and the story would go on and on, even if they miss one day or even they miss 1 week. It doesn't matter because they can pick it up later. The story would just never end. And why is it called soap opera? It's because the people who watch it are housewives, and the people who advertise it would be the companies that they sell soap, detergent, dishwashing liquid, or things like that. The famous company would be called the Procter and Gamble. We all know that Procter, you don't have to learn this up, Procter and Gamble. This is a universally famous household product. They have a toothbrush and a toothpaste. And if you go around the world, you could see Procter and Gamble or Colgate or a few other famous American brand, but they would have different flavors. 美国人喜欢刷牙的是wintergreen or what's that? Peppermint, these flavor. But in China, they would have a lotus flower or lemon, or Japanese would have melon flavor. All these household products would have different flavors in different countries, but they were still produced by Procter and Gamble or Colgate or such famous American brands. But of course, every country could have their local brand, but you can just about buy in any country, you could buy American brand household products. Okay, that's because all these afternoon TV drama series who were watched by the housewives. So the advertisement was strongly supported by this household goods manufacturers. So they are called soap operas because it goes on and on with not very interesting stories, but interesting enough to keep a lot of loyal audience, okay? And game shows, okay? So this is a big thing that I talked about. And the next thing is about how America become an independent country. There was poll tax. Poll tax, poll 就是人头哈 so poll tax 有时候叫做 head tax， 有时候叫做 capitation tax， 就是it's not a transactional tax. 你如果买东西有一个 sales tax, that tax would be charged as a percentage of this product you are buying or selling. Well, mostly it's the buyer would pay for the sales tax. However, there are other taxes, for example, property tax. That's if you own a property, which is a real estate property, 就是有房地产的话, depending on its market value, you would pay a property tax. Then there's the income tax. So depending on how much income you earned in a year, you would pay a percentage of it as your income tax. But poll tax is a different kind, different from any of these I just mentioned. It is based on one person, one tax. So how many people you have in the household, you have to pay that many times of the poll tax. So compared to all the other taxes which are charged as a percentage of something, like the property or the sale, the product or whatever, poll tax is not based on the percentage of something, but is just counting ahead, each person. So in a household with 5 people, sometimes they have 10 people, they have to pay 10 times the poll tax. So it's extremely not a progressive tax. We call that a regressive tax. I don't have that word here. Oh, here. Yeah, down there, there's a red color highlighted word called the regressive. Why is it called a very regressive tax? That is, the poorer you are, the more tax you pay, the poll tax. Usually a family would have many people and they would pay a lot for poll tax. So it is a very regressive tax, while other taxes are, we consider them progressive. Progressive. That is, the more property you own, the more money you earn, the more taxes you would pay. So that is a progressive tax. Compared to poll tax, it's a regressive tax because the poor people must pay more. And at one time, what I highlight in the middle, voting poll taxes, the government would charge a poll tax according to how many family members in the household, and you have to pay your poll tax in order for you to go to vote. Otherwise, they would not let you vote. So that is one way to make the poor people unable to vote. So for a long time, many people around the world, because of the existence of poll tax, they were not able to go to vote because they could not afford to pay the poll tax. Until one day it was finally abolished, no more poll taxes. And actually recently some Republicans were trying to resurrect this poll tax so that more Black people would not be able to vote. And that is a very bad policy, okay?
So we do not use the poll tax right now in the United States?
No, right now we don't, but there has been talks about putting up the poll tax for voting purpose, for stopping the poor people to vote. Well, they think it's a good idea, especially those white people. They think more Black people would not be able to afford paying poll taxes. It was discussed in the Congress even this year. You would think that was something that was 100 years ago, but they're still trying to get it moving. Okay, let me go through this page so we have done everything we want to say. Okay, head tax. Well, for a time, the government needed a tax, and people who, when the government charges other taxes, people are able to avoid it. Tax evader, 哈，我们叫做 evade tax, evade 哈。For example, 像 Trump 这样的人，他可以10年都不交税 because there are loopholes, or he lies about things. So he did not pay any taxes, income taxes for 10 years, except for 2 of those years. That's called tax evasion, which is against the law, but he did it all the time. And so in 19th century, government relied a lot on the poll tax. So lots of poor people were not able to vote, but that was gone. By their nature, it's a regressive tax. Okay, so we are done with the first two. The rest of it goes very quickly. The third word is endorse. Last time I mentioned Michael Jordan, when he endorsed the running shoes made by Nike, he would get an endorsement fee in the amount of millions of dollars a year. And Nike, on the other hand, would make a lot more than what they paid Michael Jordan, because people would just love to buy the shoes that Michael Jordan put his name on. So that's called endorsement. The other use is about the checks. When someone wrote a check and give to you, you would endorse it, which is in Chinese, we say 背书, just you turn it around and you sign your name, and then you can deposit the check with your endorsement, and the bank will acknowledge that and withdraw money from that person's account. This is very hard to translate, so I don't know how to translate. I put it in parentheses, 就是装在括号里，说是赞许哈。For example, maybe when Biden runs for president, some other senator would endorse him 哈，就是一方面他赞许他，一方面说希望喜欢我的人都跟我一样要投他啊，这就是一种 approval 的意思哈。我不知道，现在台湾应该有适当的翻译，只是我没有碰上过。
赞助
啊。Okay, yeah, it's not quite that, but it's better than 赞许。
会不会说认同？
是也可以说认同，也都对，可是不 not exactly that, yeah 。他有一个他赞许而希望人家跟着他走的那一个意思在里面啊。Here I have eternity. I don't remember where I mentioned that, but that's a very beautiful word. Huh? Here I have a poem that I quoted in the next slide. I wish you would all memorize that. And it is very famous and translated into Chinese as 一花一世界，一沙一世界，一花一天堂。Have you heard of that?
Yes.
To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in the flower. 这个就是翻译成一沙一世界，一花一天堂。Yeah. 然后是说 hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. 就是说hold eternity infinity 哈，把无限抓在你的手里，那么刹那之间就是永恒哈。This is a very, very beautiful poem, which I quote here, Auguries of Innocence by William Blake. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand. Palm 就是你的手掌哈，你把这个无限放在你的手掌里，那么中文说刹那之间就是永恒哈，你就可以 hold eternity in an hour 哈，这个翻译的也是非常的 beautiful 哈。And this is only the first 4 lines of a very, very long poem written by William Blake. Last time I talked about William Blake, actually, I said he only went to school to age of 10. He was so mischievous because he was too smart. So his mother withdrew him out of school, and he no longer went to school after age 10. And he could write this beautiful, beautiful poem. I would say there's no one who could write better than this. And he only got an education till he was 10 years old because he kept study and study. He was always reading. And I just don't know how anyone could write so beautifully. And he's not only a good poet, he is also a very good a philosopher, a writer, a painter. He does this engraving 哈，就是石刻哈，或者是在石头上刻，或者是在铜板上面用那个corrosion， 用那个化学药品把那个铜板上画的图把它腐蚀掉，然后就变成一幅画哈。He does it himself. It was his profession. When he was a teenager, he was sent to be an apprentice at an artist or a craftsman 的那个，就是做这个 copper 的 engraving 的一个店里面，他去做学徒哈。Okay, I wish you would find this on the internet That's very easy to find. But this very, very long poems, you don't have to remember.
Excuse me, Joe， 你
Yes.
说你第三行中文怎么翻呢？第三行，一沙一世界一花有。
他说把无限放在你的手掌上，或者说握住无限，手中握住无限。There are many versions of translation, but this is the gist of it. 把手里握住那个无限，那么在1小时里，你就可以把 eternity 都包括在里面了。这个 infinity 跟 eternity 都是无限的一种概念，是不可能在任何東西里面包住的哈。可是他就是有这样的观念。And the very funny thing is he wrote this at a young age and nobody ever read about it. And after he died, somebody went through all his archive. 他写的很多的没有登出来、没有 published 的文章啊、诗啊什么的。His biographer found this in one of the poems that he wrote, but it was never published. Isn't that something?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, then I come to this pandemic, which we're very familiar with. Huh? In the old days, we would say, oh, this year you go to India or you go to somewhere in Africa, there would be an epidemic, whether it was a cholera or typhoid, 就是这些经常又会有的流行病哈，我们都叫做 epidemic, and it doesn't go far beyond certain towns. So maybe 你可以说在India 的 Calcutta 他们流行霍乱，可是在美国就没有哈，所以它不是一个世界性的流行病，而是很 localized 的流行病。只是那个地方也许它卫生不好怎么样，就发了这个病，然后就会传给别人。可是不久也就过去了。Usually it's only in the summer when winter comes, it's gone. However, some countries, they would have it repeated year after year, but many other countries never had a problem. I wouldn't say never. Nowadays, they do not have certain epidemic anymore. However, this pandemic is an epidemic that has a passport. To remember the difference between these two words, you would remember the word P, which represents password. That is a joke. It's not a P that represents password. Pandemic is an epidemic that crosses country borders. 一下子各国全都流行这个病的这个病就叫做一个 pandemic, okay? Because this epidemic could travel from country to countries, okay?
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
did we call SARS a pandemic at that time? I didn't hear this word.
Yeah, I guess it was everywhere for a very short. I would say, for example, it was in Taiwan, was it? Maybe it was in India, was in China, maybe in a handful of countries. Yeah, but most countries in the world did not get it. So we did not use this word, even though it did travel through several countries, but it's still quite limited in scope. Okay.
Okay.
The next word is a standard. The last time I told you about standard, I said it's a big flag, but I was wrong. Standard are flags like this. So your big country flag that people holding onto when they go through the parade at the Olympic Games, those are not standard, or not, at least in the beginning, standard did not mean this rectangular shape, this flags. It could be like this with two triangles, or like this with some kind of edges that's rounded. And this kind of flag, usually quite big, is for you to put your coat of arms. Here I have the word coat of arms. 这个我在前面的这个 这个地方呢，我把它翻译成文章哈。Oh, I should really go back 哈。所谓 coat of arms， 你看到我们中国的国旗就只有这个旗，我们就没有一个 coat of arms 在上面。But in the West, especially in Europe, people have small countries. They have, for example, in Italy or in Germany, they had hundreds of little countries, and they all have a little sign that represent their tradition, their clan. 哈 clan 就是一个家族的哈。Am I losing my? Okay, clan 哈 clan 是一个家族。比方说这个 in Scotland, you have so many clans. How do you tell which clan is what clan? They wear different kilts. Their skirts, which the boys also wear. 他们的这种苏格兰人穿的裙子哈，是男人穿的裙子，而它上面就有它的花纹。比方说一条绿，一条红，一条蓝，然后那一家呢又是这样，有斜的线的，有的横的、直的什么的，那些是他们的叫做，叫什么 ？tartan， OK， 那是一个 clan， 他们有 tartan， 就是他们的布料，他们的布料上面的花纹，或者是他们的旗子上面的花纹，这个叫他们的 tartan。那上面的真的花纹，比方说有狮子啊，或者是老鹰啊，或者是什么轮子啊，或者轮船啊，或者 whatever they like to put on their coat of arm. That is called a coat of arm. Many other countries, even outside Europe, for example, in South America, they had this Spanish tradition. So they would have each country, when you say Colombia or Ecuador, they all have their coat of arms in addition to their national flag. So that's what's called the coat of arms. And I missed some other things. How we're talking about pandemic and epidemic and the plague. A plague is a specific disease. Usually it's 鼠疫哈，鼠疫叫做黑死病，或者叫做bubonic plague 哈。plague 好像有好几种哈 but I only know bubonic plague. So there are a few epidemics that are contagious 啊 contagious 就是传染病哈 contagious those contagious diseases that are passed on through warm-bodied animal like 老鼠哈，或者是老鼠被跳蚤咬了，然后这个血呢，这个就传到另外的一个动物，比方说人身上，这个就是一种鼠疫哈，这个叫做 bubonic plague。那这个 plague 呢，就是一种流行病，可是一般在欧洲流行的病多半都是鼠疫，当然偶尔也会有别的哈。可是 epidemic 就比较广义，比方说感冒哈，特别是比较死的人多的那种感冒，我们就会把它叫做。也可以叫做 plague， 也可以叫做 epidemic。epidemic 是比较流行的快的，所谓快就是说 from dirty water you can have cholera or typhoid and so on and so forth. But from plague, from the mice, you can get bubonic plague only if someone else a flea bite a person and then bite you, then you would get it. So it's less contagious. It's more localized, okay? Then we talk about two words. I said the person can be stingy or frugal, but these two words are different. A stingy person is 很小气的省钱哈。A frugal person 就是很节约的省钱哈，所以虽然是省钱，一个是有坏的意思，一个是好的意思哈。然后我们说 laugh at 是嗤笑哈。And we just went through that two flags, which are called the standard. It is not a rectangular flag, but it's usually like this. And later on, we had sports team in school, especially. So they adopted this kind of flags for each school has a certain kind of shape with certain kind of pattern on it. That's also called a standard or a pennant or pattern. There are many, many words because there was a 封建的历史 in, yeah, when we say 封建, we say feudalism. Let me put this right on here, which is not the right place for it. It's called the feudal. Is that right? Feudalism. There's an A here. Okay. Feudalism. Feudalism 就是封建的意思哈。所以因为在欧洲有很多的 feudalistic states，所以他们就会有很多很多不同的旗子，而是有各种的形状跟各种的花样。所以这种传统，其实中国当然也有啦，可是没有那么广泛哈。我们如果是看《三国演义》的 TV series， they all have different kinds of flag, which we were not too aware of. Maybe it's just for TV shows. Okay. The next word is ubiquitous, which I just read about yesterday. And I thought this word is so common, but so not common. It's quite often used, but we do not, not many Chinese, let me just put it this way, did not learn this word. That's why I picked it here, because it was in the news yesterday on Forbes 400. Ignore that word about feudalism. You know that Forbes magazine, they have so-called Forbes 400. Every year they publish the richest 400 people in the world, or in which continent, or things like that. So they have a list of 400 richest people. And on this list, there is a new guy whose name is the last bullet, Eric Yuan Zheng. He's the boss of Zoom video communication. Zoom became ubiquitous in the work from home era. 我们现在这个时代叫做 work from home era. Why? Because of the pandemic. People don't want to get the disease, so they stayed at home. But they had to talk to their coworkers and boss and so on and so forth. So they use Zoom, just like what we are doing right now, Zoom. And this person who invented is Eric Yuan Zheng. He invented the ubiquitous Zoom video so that for the first time in his life, he became one of the Forbes 400. And not only did he become one of the 400 richest people in the world, his asset also, I wouldn't say double, triple. It's more than triple. In January of this year, he only had, say, maybe $5 billion. And now his net worth is worth 360% of what he used to have in January. So he really made it big this year, and he became one of the richest people, 400 people in the world, and not the last one. Actually, he jumped right into it, having 18, I don't know. Actually, here they say there are 18 newcomers to the list, and his net worth is probably 16 or 18 billion dollars right now. Okay, that's a very.
I think he's one of the person that really appreciate this pandemic.
Yes, and other companies would try so hard to catch up with him because he was already there when the pandemic happened. However, he had this idea while he was working for Cisco system. And he suggested to his boss, he was probably a vice president, a big one too. And he suggested to Cisco system that they should develop this kind of video communication. But he was turned down. The boss decided, nah, don't do that. So he quit. And he went and founded his own company. And that's called the Zoom video communications. And just in time, because he was already there when everybody was trying to use it. Isn't that something? Okay, here we have Jeff Bezos. He's number one for third year in a row. Number one, the richest person in the world. At the same time, Donald Trump tumbled from 275 to 352. He did not do a good job. Okay. Okay. So we're talking about this guy. Yeah, his net worth is 16.4 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay. So we're going to stop this and try to don't I have this one? No, I have to go to my, sorry, I have to go to my, but Danny boy, okay. And let me choose Zoom, okay. I hope you got that. Danny Boy by Mario Lanza. I don't hear it. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Isn't that a lovely song? Okay. We have Mario Lanza. That's him. His voice is, of course, is very beautiful, and especially when he sings the high notes, and he expresses his emotion very well. A very moving song. I'll just read it over quickly. It says, because its song was very popular, so people might change it when a few words, not even intentionally. So from time to time, you will see a different version with a little bit of difference, but basically it's the same thing. For example, he would say "e" while the lyrics may say "you" and things like that. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. Here we have the pipes. The pipes is a kind of instrument that's very common with the Celts. Well, here we have the word Celtic. 他们这一族人呢叫做 Celtics 或者叫做 Celts 像我们的 Boston 的篮球队就叫做 Celts or Celtics. I don't know. Because Boston has a lot of Irish people and a lot of Catholic Irish. And you would say, oh, I thought the Scotch people would play this kind of instrument. But yes, they would, because they were also Celts. There is, I can show you a map of Celts here. Here's a picture of distribution of Celtic people. In the old days, it was the light green colored area, including the core yellow area. These people were all Celts in the old days, from 6th century BC all the way until now. They are almost all gone. So these people were chased by 匈奴the 汉朝或者唐朝 they would chase the 匈奴 west, and the 匈奴 would chase the Celts west. So all these people from the Celts were originally as far as Anatolia. This is Turkey. In the center of Turkey is called Anatolia. These were Celtic people, and they were here, not Romania, that's probably Belgrade, Serbia. And this is Romania, and so on and so forth, all the way to German and France and Spain and Portugal. All these were Celtic people, but as more new people came from the east, they left these original places and they went west. They moved west and west and west until right now, the only people who still speak Celtic language are these dark green parts. This one is in France, and this is in Wales, and this is in Scotland, and the spots on the western side of Ireland. So these are the Celtic people. And now we say people who dance the river dance, they're Celtics. And but in the old days, 2,000-3,000 years ago, they were in many other places here, okay? So we have, they play that, this instrument, it's called the pipes. So right now, lots of Scottish people and Irish people still play this pipe. You would wonder how you play this musical instrument. It's because there is a big bag underneath, and all these pipes are stuck on this bag. And the player would put the fingers on top of these little pipes, which are called pipes. And then with different fingers on different holes, it would make different sound. And how does the sound happen? That's because the player would put his mouth here and he blows air into this bag. So when he's playing, this whole bag is full of air, and all these air would sneak out from all these individual little pipes. So you blow the pipe here while the air would come out and make sound as it escapes these holes on the pipes. So this is how it works. So in most of other like flute or 箫或者笛子这样的乐器呢，你一吹它就出声音，你一不吹它就没有声音了。But with this pipe, you just keep blowing so that the bag is full of air, while the air would continuously go out of the pipes and make sound. So your pipes would be singing lots of different songs while you just keep on blowing to make sure there's enough air in the bag, okay? But when you come when summer's in the meadow, call me back, okay? 当你回来的时候，那草原上已经是夏天了啊，所以你现在走的时候，好像 roses are okay. Summer's gone and all the roses falling, huh? But now that you are leaving me, when summer is gone and all the roses are falling, but you have to go and I must stay, huh? 拜的是手的意思哈，就是stay, huh? So you must go and I must bide, 就是我是 stay here and wait for you to come back. But when you come back, summer's already in the meadow. Or you may come when winter's here, the valley's hushed and white with snow. 那个山谷里面安安静静的哈。When it's snowed a lot, you would it would be very quiet. So he used the word hushed. The valley is hushed and white with snow. 下满了雪的时候很安静哈。It's I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. 就是说 all this time you go away and maybe sometime you would come back. And throughout this period when you are away, it is I who will be here, whether it's sunshine or in shadow. 就是不管什么样的天气，我就在这里苦苦的等哈。When we read the poem by Li Bai, it's the same thing. No matter where you are, you went away for a long, long time, but I am stuck here. Whether it's sunshine or shadow, I will always be here waiting. I love you so, Danny boy, oh Danny boy, I love you so. 前面是2段哈，然后呢，这个就是所谓的起承转合里面的转哈，第3段。它一共是有4段的。But when you come, someday you will come back, I hope. When you come and all the flowers are dying, if I'm dead, as dead I will maybe. The person who's singing is not optimistic. She believes that when her son comes back, he's already dead. She said, if I am dead, as well as dead I will maybe, well, I might as well be dead. I'm sure I would have been dead when the time you come back, because you're not coming back soon. You're going away for a long, long time. You come and find the place where I'm lying. So I'm dead when you come here. What do? You would go find the place where I'm lying. 我躺在那个地底下的那个地方，你就要去那里找我哈。And kneel and say an Ave there for me. 你就会跪下来，然后 这个阿贝呢，我们知道这个阿贝玛利亚就是这个阿贝哈，是一种赞美或者祝福的意思。And when you come back, I'm dead. So you would kneel and say an Ave there for me. And this is the last paragraph. And I shall hear those soft you tread above me. 虽然你轻轻的在我的上面的地面走过，可是我也会看，我会听到的。Don't worry, I know you're coming back and I will hear. I shall hear even though soft you tread above me. Tread 就是踩的意思哈。And all my grave, 有的好像他唱的是 all my dreams。我看很多都是说 all my grave, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be 哈。虽然我已经死了，可是你回来呢，我的这个棺材或者我的这个尸体，或者说是我的梦想呢，就是因为你的回来而能够 warmer, sweeter be. This is really lovely. For you will bend and tell me that you love me. 为什么我的 grave 会 warmer and sweeter 呢？ Because you will bend and tell me that you love me. 很多的 version 是写 you will whisper that you love me. 或者说 I wish you would whisper. I wish you would bend and whisper that you love me. There are many versions. They are essentially the same. And I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. 所以我虽然可能很早就死了，可是我还会很安详的一直等到你回来，我才会醒过来。Okay, this is a very sad song because the person who's singing, who loves this person who's leaving, she did not expect to live long, and she just wished that one day when the son comes back, she will know about it and be happy and feel peaceful about it. Okay, so this is a story or a song written by a lawyer of all people. He is an English lawyer. He did not live in Ireland, and he did not make this song an Irish song, but he sent this song to his sister-in-law, who is Irish, and the sister-in-law thought this very lovely song, she would like to match this poem with an old Irish tune, which is called the Londonderry Air. And so she told this lawyer who wrote this poem, and she made a few minor changes so it would match with that melody. And maybe it was not Danny Boy either, but for better or worse, the song became Danny Boy, and it became extremely popular among Irish people because they had lots of war and lots of famine, and many young men moved to other countries, especially to Boston. Lots of people in Ireland during the potato famine went to other countries, mostly in United States, and many went to Boston. And they just feel that this song is their song. They feel so moved by this song because they must have left some parents or loved one back home, and they could maybe never see those people again. And this is by itself, it's a lovely song, good words and a good melody. But when it's called a Danny Boy, it becomes an Irish song, and everyone knew it's an Irish song, even though it was not written by an Irish. It was not meant for an Irish song. Okay, there was a word Glen in that song, which here showing you a picture. So it's not a river, it's not really a creek or something, it's just a little small stream. And there are a lot of them in Scotland or Ireland. You know, Scotland, Ireland, and England, they were all situated at the very northwest corner of a huge continent. You look at Asia and Europe, these are huge continents, but at the very corner in the sea, you could find England, Scotland, Ireland, and just like you would find Seattle in North America. We are in a similar position. We are at the northwest corner of a huge continent, and we're by the sea with lots of moist air coming from the sea. So our winters are mild, our summers are cool. We have similar weather, just like England or Ireland, very similar, lots of rain there. As I saw in Ireland, they had more rain than what we have. They have just about every day they had rain. And I was there from August 11th of 2012. And every day when I was there, it rained. Here, we don't have so much rain in the summer, okay? So we have Mario Lanza, who died rather young. He was 38 years old. So it's very sad that a talented young man would die so early. He's an American person, though his parents, his ancestry, here we have ancestry, 就是他的祖先是意大利人哈，意大利人 there's a wonderful thing about being Italian if you are a good singer, because you have so many wonderful Italian folk songs and opera arias. So that's what happened here with the very young Mario Lanza, who became a huge star because he sings so well. He became a singer, an actor, and a Hollywood movie star. He started to sing professionally when he was 16 years old, and he went to this Hollywood Bowl, which is a football game, I believe, and he appeared and to sing a song in 1947. That was the year I was born, okay? And he was signed a 7-year film contract with MGM 哈，米高梅公司跟他签了一个合同，是7年的合同哈。And he made several very big hit movies, huge box office record breaking huh? He sold millions of records, 唱片卖了几百万张。So in the movies, he would sing some popular songs. Actually, those were songs that were written right there by some contemporary people. And he sang those songs, and they became very, very popular. However, he also appeared in opera. He was in Madame Butterfly. As soon as he 就是蝴蝶夫人了. He appeared in many, many operas. He was very good. And he also appeared in a movie called The Great Caruso, 叫做歌王卡罗素. The Great Caruso was an Italian singer who became very popular. People would say he was the best opera singer in the world has ever seen. But Mario Lanza was the movie star in a movie called The Great Caruso, 歌王卡罗素. And they are both quite similar in that they died young. They were, I would say, they drink a lot, maybe used the drug a lot, and ate a lot, became fat and so on. and they had bad temper. So they both died young, and they both had the heart problem and weight problem and so on and so forth. I think Mario Lanza died even younger than Caruso. His last movie, he was not in it. It was Student Prince, 学生王子 有没有人看过学生王子 Yeah, I could sing every song in that movie. And he was signed to appear as the leading actor who is the Student Prince in that movie. And he did all the recording. He sang all the songs because the script was obviously written with all the songs and music all written. And he recorded all the songs, and he had a fight with the studio. So he was fired because he would not listen to what the boss told him to do. He was rebellious, tough, and ambitious. And he thought very highly of himself, so he would not listen to other people. So he was fired. So the studio found someone else whose name is Edward Purdom. And that person lip synced. You know what that means? Lip 有嘴唇，就是假装是他唱的，可是不是他唱的哈，他 lip synced。像以前我们有什么乐蒂啊，或者是李丽华 ，they were in 黄梅调 or some singing musicals, but they could not sing, so they would lip sync. Lip 就是嘴唇 ，sync 就是 synchronize 哈。我们在大概头一次还第二次里面学了 synchronize 这个字。就是你没有唱，可是那个音乐放出来的时候，你假装是你唱的，让人家觉得是你在唱，这个叫做 lip sync 哈。And he had addictions. He had addictions to overeating 哈 ，addiction 就是上瘾哈，毒瘾。You could be a drug addict, or you could be an alcoholic. 就是你酒醉、酒中毒哈，都是用这个 addiction 这个字的。And it even has some wider meaning ha. In addition to addictions to alcohol and the drug, there are eating addiction, people who get fat because they just could not stop eating, or they could get they would refuse to eat even when they're hungry. That is also a mental illness. Alcohol and his relationship with everyone else was pretty messed up. And he died of this particular disease at age 38. And when he died, he was the most famous tenor in the world when he died. It's very, very sad, huh? Here I was talking about this Danny Boy. It was written by an English lawyer in 1910. So if you think this is the old traditional Irish song, it was not older than 1910. So it's only 100-year-old, okay? And he wrote this lyrics to a tune other than Londonderry Air. But his Irish-born sister-in-law in the United States sent him a copy with his words and the Londonderry Air with some minor alteration. And it just became so popular from then on. Here is a word that's very important to the Irish people and to the Chinese people. The word is called diaspora. A diaspora, when you say Irish diaspora or you say Chinese diaspora, you're in the country which is not Ireland or not China. For example, you're in US, but you have community full of people from the old country. And you may even don't have to speak any of the local language. So you could live in the diaspora and eat the same food, talk in the same way, having all sorts of friends who were also from the same country where you came from. So this is called the diaspora. Danny boy, I'm sorry, I'm coughing. That's why I'm taking a, what's that called? 也不是六味丸. Some people could may know.
Coffee cure.
No, this is
Coffee
like
cure.
it's like
Make the like the sugar with the herb.
yeah,
No.
with herb, yes. You could buy it as a 金桔的，或者是白柚丸，或者是橘子丸。Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, 这个慧玲给我的哈。Okay, it works wonders. Because this is such a sad song, it's about loss, departure, and even death. But it's also uplifting. Uplifting 就是让你的心能够很上升哈，鼓舞你的心情。Yeah, and with the tantalizing hope， 就是说你好像 eventually 有一天你还是会见到他，即使是你死了，你还是会见到你的儿子。You will know that he came to see you. So tantalizing 就是没有很清楚的看得到，而是怎么说，花非花，雾非雾的那个样子，好像看到了，可是好像又模模糊糊的那个样子，叫做 tantalizing 哈。So even though it's a very sad song, but it's inspiring, and you would hold on to that hope of a possible reunion with the departed. 即使是你这个年轻人走了，你的妈妈在家里，可是你觉得你回来以后还是可以让他得到安慰，所以这个是很重要的一件事，可以让这个歌变成如此的 popular 哈。So many people, especially with the Irish people, they went away. They left their home, their country, either because of famine or because of war. Lots of people living in British colonies were sent to fight their war in different countries. For example, you have Indian soldiers, you have Irish soldiers, and you go to India or you go to Ireland, and they have this memorial in what year these people died while fighting a war waged by the British people. Okay, so you're 当他们的炮灰哈。So if you go to Dublin, they have this Stephen's Green, which is a very nice park. And there's a huge memorial of people who died in the Afghanistan war because the British Empire and the Russian Empire, they were trying to fight over Afghanistan. They were the first Afghanistan war, the second, and so on. And there are lots of Irish people and Indian people, Canadian people, and Australian people. They all fight for their boss, their colonial boss, okay? So I was talking about Stephen's Green, this park. They have this memorial and the gate, the gate, the park has a gate, and they call that Traitor's Gate because they had to fight and die for someone else's war. So it's called a Traitor's Gate. So the song has resonated. So it resonated 就好像有共鸣哈，人家一唱你心里就会感动了，所以就叫用这个字叫做 resonate most with those who have experienced loss. For those people who 感觉到这个失落或者死亡，或者是远离了家乡，种种的不同的 emotion, this song will give you that emotion and give you an uplifting end, even though it's not a happily ever after kind of happy ending. So Danny Boy means a great deal to members of the Irish diaspora forced into exile, particularly in the States. 在美国的 Irish 特别喜欢唱这个 Danny Boy. And we know that a lot of Irish people in America came from Ireland, of course, like Kennedy, his father or his grandfather came during the Great Famine. And yeah, there are a lot of people like that George Bush's vice president, 他叫什么的 Daniel something, and people just say that he's ignorant, he knows nothing, so they all call him Danny Boy because he was Irish and his name is Danny.
Was that quail?
What's that again?
Was that Danny?
Dan Quayle.
Dan Quayle we're talking about?
Yes, Dan Quayle. Yes, Dan Quayle was his name. He did not call himself Danny, but he's called Dan or Daniel. But people use the derogative name Danny Boy to call him. Yeah, quail is like一个鹧鸪鸟的那个 quail. So it became so popular, and they like to sing this song during funerals and wakes. The wakes is kind of funeral service, not at a big auditorium or church, but at a home. When you have a funeral, somebody died, they would have relatives and friends come to the home, and they would eat food and talk about this dead person. That's called a wake. The wake 就是一个船走过的时候，那个船的尾巴在水面上留下来的那个波浪啊，常常是一条线或者两条线。That's called wake. And here we say an Irish funeral gathering is called a wake. And many people with Irish in their background, they would like to have this song played at their funerals, like Princess Diana, Elvis Presley, and John McCain. They all have some kind of Irish blood in them. Let's talk a little bit about Ireland. It's a little country that is west of the British Isle, the huge, not very huge to us, but England, Scotland, Wales, they were on a much bigger island, while Ireland is a part of the small island. Why is that? If you have never been acquainted to their story, you would think, oh, they're all the same. They're either England or Scotland or Ireland. They are the same people, but not so. Irish has always been downtrodden, 就是被英伦踩在脚底下，虐待他们，迫害他们，所以他们恨英国人，恨得不得了。Okay, if you were Chinese and never thought about it, you would think they were just some kind of English people, but they are not. English people occupy the entire island ever since Queen Elizabeth I. And they totally, they treated them like dirt, okay? But they also send many of their own people to dilute their population. So the local people cannot earn and cannot keep any property. If you own house or land, when the English came, they took over everything. You no longer own anything, you're poor, and you had to work for the people, the English people who now became your boss. And if you still believe in Catholic church, then you cannot go to school, you cannot be elected, you cannot do anything. You cannot be store owners. So the English people treated them terribly. Why? Because they had many colonies like Canada and Australia. They're all English people. So they treat them like English people. And if they go to India or such places, they're not English people. So they want to convert them to English Anglican Church. 要他们信他们的英国国教. So if you are not English people, then you are converted to be a Christian. But the Irish people are neither. They're not English people, and they are not in the Church of England. They are Catholics. So they are the arch enemy of the English people. And so they were just treated terribly. If you go to elementary school, you should learn their language, not your own language. Your Celtic language was suppressed, and you could not go to school. You cannot be doctors or lawyers or whatever, because you are not able to go to college. And lots of things like that. So you should know that the Irish people really, really hated the English people. And they fought against them all the time since 1500, a little bit before 1500, during the reign of Elizabeth I. But the kings come and go, and they are still downtrodden, treated very bad by the English people. That is until 1916. There's a potato famine before that, 1845 to 1848. Why would a potato famine make them all starve to death? Because first of all, they did not own any land at that time. All the land was owned by the British, and the British landowners, they exported the crops. Whatever you're planting, they were exported to France, to Germany, to many other countries, and left nothing for the locals to eat. And the locals, year after year, was just eating potato, but there was a potato famine. You would say there was a crop failure, but it did not kill the people. It is the colonial government that caused the famine. There is a saying that all the famines in the world, famine 就是大饥荒, whether it's Chinese or Indian or whatever, all the famines in the world were not because of flood or fire or crop failure. It is all because of the government. The government did not do well to move the food to the hungry people. They moved the food away from the people. And only when there is a crop failure, this thing would be so horrific that hundreds of, or even millions of people died. Yeah. There was about a third of Irish people died during the famine. And they would consider Queen Victoria the murderer. Okay, so they continued to fight against the British people. And in 1916, you had people like Michael Collins. Okay, the movie was played, in the movie, it was Liam Neeson who played Michael Collins. It started with the 1916 Easter Uprising. So the Irish people fought the British people. Then came the World War I. 第一次世界大战的时候, the British people couldn't hardly handle this uprising. It's very bloody, and they killed all the leaders, and so on and so forth. But in 1922, the British people just called it quick. They say, okay, you can be independent. So they became independent. And following all the independence, there's almost always a civil war, because they could not settle down as to how they can manage the country. So in Ireland, they had the civil war. As you can see, this is Ireland. Now the Republic of Ireland has 26 counties. They were all green on this map. And all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 6 counties were people who are closest to England and Scotland. So they have more outsiders there, and they did not want to become independent. So the two parts fought the Civil War for a long time. And it continued to 1993. We had the period called the Troubles. The Troubles is the British Protestant and the Irish Catholic. They fought each other. They blow bombs and they fire rifles. They just, the terrorism is everywhere. And that's why from 1922, the country was a mess. You probably still remember those years when you would always see in the news that something was blown up, usually a car. And that's how it was. But then all of a sudden, they decided enough is enough, and they're not going to change the other 6 counties into their republic. So they just had a truce, and it held for quite a few years, like 20 some years now. Okay, and now they were doing pretty well until 2008. They were called the Celtic tiger because we had 4 little tigers in Asia, which are Hong Kong, Singapore, Korea, and Taiwan. They are called the 4 little tigers of Asia. They were countries that became very wealthy by investing in their industries. And in Europe, you had Northern Ireland, who is called Celtic tiger because they have access to the huge market of Europe and the United States. They speak of the language, the English language. So United States investors would go to Ireland with cheap labor and open up shops to produce products to sell to the European market or to many other markets in the world. So they were in an extremely good position to become a tiger. However, since 2008, it was pretty bad. When I was there in 2012, most cities, most streets, at least a third of the houses were empty. Nobody lived in there or have office or stores in there. It's just empty. I'm sure it'll be better now, but that's how it was. And this, to understand them, religion was an important part. In Ireland, 86.8% of the people were Catholic, are Catholics in 2006, while only less than 5% are Protestants, 就是信我们所谓的基督教，就是信新教的人。And the Church of Ireland 是a denomination of Anglican Church. 英国国教的这个 church 呢，它在爱尔兰它有爱尔兰教会，跟在苏格兰有苏格兰教会。These are all part of their Anglican Church. And there are really, really few people in there. I understand that in Ireland, it's illegal to have an abortion until last year or the year before. So they were one of the very, very last countries in the world that still did not allow abortion. Abortion 就是堕胎的意思。And they have 3 patron saints, St. Patrick, St. Bridget, and St. Columba or Columba. St. Patrick is very well known, and St. Patrick Day is March the 17th, and it's their patron saint. He came from, I don't know where he came from, maybe from Rome or from, 可能是从意大利来的. He came to Ireland as a missionary, and he converted the country to Catholic religion. And so St. Patrick is the foremost patron saint. And the second one is St. Bridget, who is a woman. In many countries, when you have religion, there is usually a female figure. For example, like in our country, we had Guan Yin or we had Mazu, because mothers are so important in people's life that each religion would want to have a saintly female figure as their revered person or pusa. And the St. Bridget is either a very ancient nun or she was a pagan saint from older days, and still so people still worship her. And whether she was real or not, there was no definite answer to that. And the Saint Columba, he was an Irish Catholic Church priest, and he went to Scotland to preach, to be a missionary. So these are the 3 of their saints. This poem is pretty long, but it's not very hard to understand. And many of the things you would have known already. If you like to memorize the whole thing, you're welcome to do that, but you don't have to because it's very long, okay? This is a story of a girl. She was a young little girl when her hair was just covering her forehead. 我们可以叫做 forehead 或者是 forehead， 把它连成一起一样的拼法哈，就是额这个欠法出腹额哈 ，F-O-R-E 就是前面的意思 ，head 就是头哈，这个额头叫做 forehead 或者 forehead。我小时候刚刚头发，because babies usually stop growing hair until a few years old, sometimes 2 or 3, sometimes even 5 years old. Then they start to grow the hair, and the hair would cover the front of your head. Probably not when you were 1 year old, because you probably did not grow much hair early on. So you picked some flowers at the front door and played the game with a little boy. The boy and the girl playing games, 我们叫它做青梅竹马. Here she said, my man or my husband, or you, when you were a boy, you rode on the wooden bamboo horse. 这个说据说李白是所有的诗里面第一个提到竹马的人哈，就是一根竹子 you ride on the piece of bamboo as if it were a horse. It's called a bamboo horse. And she remembers how her husband was when he was a little boy. And he rode on this wooden horse and circled this 床 And this 床 is not a bed. It is the fence around the well. Every family should have a well so they can draw water. And it's a dangerous thing because people might fall into the well. So that's why there should be a kind of, you can call it fence or balustrade or some kind of barrier so that people, or especially children, would not fall into it. So this boy would ride a bamboo horse and circle this little fence and play with 青梅哈，青 is green 哈。We know this flower. All Chinese know this 梅花, but your friends probably nobody have heard of 梅花. Your non-Chinese friend, so it's a kind of difficult to tell them what May is because they've never seen it. I only know a handful of these trees in Seattle. And this is called, maybe many people heard about it as Japanese apricot because it's similar to apricot, but they learned it from Japan, from Japanese people. So it's called Japanese apricot. We thought it looked like plum. Plum and apricots are a little different. I would say 梅子比较像杏子哈。And the 青梅就是 when it's not ripened, it's green and it's crispy 哈。同居长安里哈 we both lived in this little, you can say village, but it's just a li ha. It's near 健康或者说南京哈 so it's more or less a suburb or even part of the city, but it's only a neighborhood 叫做长安 and in 唐诗 you often come across the word 长安哈长干 I'm sorry 长安也是 come across in 唐诗 but that's a different place, that's 现在的西安哈两小无嫌猜哈 from this we have the word 两小无猜哈它这里因为是个五言诗所以是无嫌猜而这个要讲成一个4个字的成语 we eliminate one of the word which has some kind of not very good connotation, so we just say 两小无猜哈2个小孩一男一女从小一起玩着长大的就是青梅竹马两小无猜就是从这个诗来的哈 Then she turned 14 and got married to the husband, and she was so shy. She just wouldn't speak or lift her head. 低头向岸壁 She lowered her head and facing the dark wall and then would not look at the bridegroom. 新郎千唤不一回这个新郎 called her 1,000 times and she would not respond or turn her head. After a full year of being a bride, when she turned 15, she started to spread out her facial features. 她把她的眉头本来一直都皱在那里，现在终于1整年以后，她才把眉头展开spread their eyebrow. And she hoped that one day they would die and buried in the same coffin or in the same grave. 这是她的愿同尘与灰的意思，就是说 dust to dust， 这个是西方人的葬礼也是要念这个圣经里的说 dust to dust 就是说死了以后还要跟她的丈夫葬在一起长存抱柱信，这个就是they loved and trusted each other so much. She said it was like the 抱柱的人的故事Here we have I had this 抱柱 okay 长存抱柱信There's a man whose name is 尾生 and he had a date with a woman 这个 date 就是期的意思就是 they agreed on a date 在这个桥底下 under a bridge and the woman did not come, and the water came, and the flood came, and 尾生呢就抱着这个桥的柱子就淹死了 because he refuses to leave the place that he promised he would meet the girl there. So he held on to the pillar or the piling of the bridge and died. Okay, so we see a person who is so trustworthy, so keeping his word, so do not breaking any promise, that he would hold on to the pillar of the bridge, even if by losing his time, he still would do that. 这个就是说，这个 woman, she got married and she just promised to always be the husband's wife forever and ever. 启上望福台哈，是望福台 is a place where women whose husbands were away, they would go on to a higher place called a 望福台, where they could look farther and see if her husband is coming home. Huh? So if they go there all the time, that this place is called 望福台, because they go there but never saw anybody. She did not plan on to be a wife who would go on 望福台, but that's what she became, because her husband, when she was 16, the husband went far away and passed 瞿塘堰玉堆哈。瞿塘是西陵峡、巫峡、瞿塘峡三峡里面的一个峡哈。So they lived in 长安里, which is in Nanjing, and the husband went away, passing 瞿塘峡. That is that's where you go into Sichuan. That's pretty far away, huh? So that's probably beyond 汉口武昌了哈，现在我们叫武汉了。堰玉堆呢，就是瞿塘峡的峡口的一个大石头 and some of the time the water would be so high that you could not see this huge rock, so it's very dangerous to sail across this area because you do not know where that rock is, and your boat might hit that rock and capsize. Okay, 五月不可触啊，他是说5月的时候有那个水高的时候，所以你就真的是也千万不要，他希望你这个船不要碰到这个堰玉堆。原生天上来哈 ，we know that 李白有另外一首讲三峡的诗，也是很有名的，就是朝辞白帝彩云间，千里江陵一日还，两岸猿声啼不住，轻舟已过万重山。哈，这个就是说两岸有猿猴的声音，非常的悲哀的声音哈，好像那个 the wailing sound, the sad shrieking voices reach the sky. Okay, so her husband was gone, and she was at home year after year. She was home. 门前迟行迹哈，她的门前以前那个 her husband comes and go all the time, but now there's nobody coming in and out 哈。这个迟呢，它的意思有一点是过去，或者是说旧时候哈，或者是过去的时候，他这个husband was in and out of through the gate, but now he's gone for years, and 一生绿台就是这个门前的这个台阶上面生了很多的green moss that she's not going anywhere, she's just inside the house. Okay, 胎生不能扫，落叶秋风早哈，这个是15、16、14、15、16，然后就讲这个 就是一个转一个哈，这个从夏天5月的时候过那个河的那个堰鱼堆，然后就是胎生，然后秋落叶秋风的，然后8月这样一直下来的哈。It's a very long narrative。胎生不能扫，就是这个青苔长得这么深呢，也不能把它扫掉，长得很都 stuck on the rock。落叶秋风早。This is one thing beautiful about Chinese poems. You don't know who's talking about 落叶, who's talking about 秋风早, but you just have the feeling that there's 落叶, there's 秋风, who's 早, who's 晚, you don't know, okay? Chinese do not have a subject or a tense or a gender. There are a lot of grammars we don't have, but because of that, the poetry is so beautiful because it's so obscure. You don't know what's happening, okay? 门前池行池讲了，8月蝴蝶黄，双飞西园草哈。A pair of butterfly, maybe this wife was thinking, oh, there's a pair of butterfly, and I wish you were here. And I became very sad, and I sit around day in, day out, and I'm worrying that my youth, my beauty would one day be gone, and you were not able to see me. You were gone for such a long time. 我这个红颜就变成老人了哈。I hope the end is I hope that someday you will come down the 38哈，38就是四川的意思哈。We have 3个8叫做8郡8东8西。You would pass the gate or the 三峡 where Sichuan's entrance is, 就是38哈，就是四川的东部。那时候呢，我就要希望你能够欲将书报家。Tell me, send me a letter, let me know you're coming. Then I will go meet you no matter how far as 长风沙, which is hundreds of miles away. I would just go there to wait for you. So this is a story of a young wife whose husband left her probably to do business in Sichuan. And she just sadly wait and wait and wait. She didn't say that when you come, I'm dead. No, she didn't. If it were the husbands or parents, then the song would be different, like Danny Boy. But here we have this wonderful, different point of view from a young girl. I'm here not to talk about 李白的身世, but several strange things about him. Until 1990, there are scholars who decided 李白是唐高宗李渊的五世孙. So for 1300 years, that was not discovered because there was something in his past that he was reluctant to let people know. He only said, my last name was Li, and we had a family who moved from here and there. And he never named it because maybe something sad or wrong happened in his family. So he was 太子李建成的一个四世孙哈。为什么是太子呢？ Because 李建成被那个唐太宗杀掉了，所以他这个太子就当不成皇帝了。唐太宗是 second son, okay? 至于 where he was born, there are 3 ways people say 3 different things. One is 四川绵阳江曲, one is 陇西成纪, which is in Gansu, Tianshui. And third one is in Kyrgyzstan, in Tokmak. And I have a picture of Tokmak, which I took. This is an old minaret. Minaret is a mosque 的一个教拜塔. There's an old 塔, there, but the mosque 清真寺已经不在了. And if you look at this tower, which is a minaret, if you look at it while you are in the city of Tokmak, you're looking at this grassland where 8 kilometers beyond that tower was what they say Li Bai was born, okay? This city is called the Sui Cheng. People say that's where he was born. And this Cheng wanted to get Chinese tourists coming to them. So they're having building some kind of sister city agreement with this city, Sichuan Mianyang or Longxi Chengji. They want to become some kind of relation so that the Chinese customer tourists would go there. As to how he died, there are also 3 ways people say. One is he was ill and when he was drunk, so he died. Or he died because he was drunk. Or the third thing is they say he was in the boat, he was drunk and he was trying to catch the moon in the lake or river and he drowned. So one way or another, it probably has something to do with his being drunk, okay? So I'll just finish right here. If anyone has anything to say. I'm repeating what Jerry told me early on. If you're late, we start to do the recording from this class. So after this, we will put the recording on YouTube so people can watch it even they miss this class. And so if you have your video shared with others and you did not want people on YouTube to see you, you can change it to no video sharing. But if you don't mind, then it's okay. Or like Lucy, she's not sharing
Yes.
video, but she has a picture there. So people can also see her. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people could only see me. When did the travel talk, if I see the recording, usually I could see me only. Other people I could not see. So it's possible that even if you have a video sharing, people still cannot see you. It's just a warning, but after today, we'll be able to see it to know what's going on. In the beginning, I did not want the recording because I'm just talking wherever it takes me. And I do not know where I was going before this class started. So I'm sure there will be words that were wrong, mistakes I make. But I thought, so what? So what? Mistake is mistake. If I find out it was a mistake, next time I'll tell you it was a mistake. I don't mind that. So.
But this is great news for me because, I can repeat to watch your your material in the class.
That's right. Yeah, even I would like to watch some of it. And if you go away on the trip or you're away from Wi-Fi, you cannot come to the class. You can always watch it later. That is good. Yeah, I like that.